and we're going to get into some unconfirmed bias that people have, patients have when they come into the clinic. And I hear it from time to time from people. Well, I have arthritis and there's nothing you can do to fix it. I just have to live with it. Yeah, that's what they sound like. I have arthritis. Can you fix arthritis? No. So there's nothing you could do. I'll have to live with it the rest of my life. So because I hear that from time to time, and that's an unconfirmed bias that we hear, like my dad had back pain and his dad had back pain, so I'll have back pain the rest of my life. False. These are unconfirmed biases that we have that have been handed down from either generation to generation. But also it gets passed around as common knowledge that if I have arthritis, there's nothing you can do, so you have to live with it. So this is an area I had to touch on because people like to come into the clinic telling me about, quote unquote, Uncle Arthur is visiting them today. And they've just learned to accept the pain and dysfunction. They've just learned to accept having lack of mobility. And it doesn't have to be like that. And it doesn't have to be like that. People with arthritis do not have to live in pain. And they can get help. They could truly get help. But before we get going, let's just talk about what arthritis is. And arthritis essentially is joint inflammation. That's essentially what it is. It's that the joint is inflamed. And the reality is that arthritis is a degeneration of the joint. When we start digging into it, the surrounding cartilage, the bone, and that degeneration can penetrate through that cartilage into the bone. So there's different layers of degeneration. Not all of it's the same. But essentially that breakdown of the cartilage or bone in the joint is degenerative joint disease. Essentially what we're getting. And there are classic symptoms that you get. You get joint stiffness. You get pain in the joints. You get a painful joint. You get limited mobility. These are all areas that are pretty classic with degenerative joint disease. But degenerative arthritis begins to limit the joint as the disease progresses. The joint attempts to protect itself, and the ways that it tends to do that is through limiting the mobility. The capsule surrounding the joint becomes more stiff. It starts to tighten up. Tightening the capsule starts to limit the amount of motion you can go through. It tends to restrict your mobility. The lack of mobility leads to pain. And obviously, pain is the great equalizer. And we tend to limit our mobility when we hurt. So a limit to our mobility creates deconditioning to the body and leads to further problems with your degenerative joint. So this tends to create a cycle. It tends to create a cycle that accelerates the disease effects overall, which then leads to the individual to accept just apathy. There's nothing you can do about it. But that's false. And I'll give you 7 reasons right now why that's false. Here are 7 ways that you can help reduce arthritic pain. 7 ways. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper. Number 1, the most simple, easiest thing that you can do to help limit arthritis is use adaptive equipment. A front wheel walker, a single point cane, a crutch. These are all excellent ways to assist in reducing weight bearing through the joint. So a cane, for example, can reduce weight bearing up to 45% on that limb that's hurting. 45%. And if you use your equipment correctly, that's your first step to regaining your mobility and decreasing your pain. That's your first step. Adaptive equipment can be powerful for you. Number 2, bracing. An unloader brace, that's just a simple way to change the pressure in the knee. And it changes it enough to help improve your mobility and also reduces your pain. The braces, these unloader braces, are typically specific to the individual, and they need to be fit for each person individually versus just an over-the-shelf version. And if you're wondering about an unloader brace, there are a few companies that I can reach out to help you acquire an unloader brace, but it is an option for you. A knee sleeve might help with just pain management. Other braces that have hinges on the side might help as well. But an unloader brace is one that specifically helps with arthritis, especially more severe arthritis. Third way that we can help with reduce arthritic pain is joint mobilization. Now, what's a mobilization? Now, these are specific techniques that myself as a physical therapist will use to help stretch your capsule of your joint. See, as the joint becomes more immobile, less pliable, and more rigid, we need to stretch that back out. So myself specifically will get into stretching that capsule to help improve the mobility so that you can gain your knee or your hip, your shoulder mobility back. The lack of mobility creates essentially a contracture to the surrounding muscles and it restricts your mobility. So it ends up affecting your muscles as well. So the first step is specific mobilization techniques to the capsule to improve that mobility before we get into other areas of the joint or the surrounding muscles. Which dovetails into number 4, which is joint stretching. Not only do we stretch the joint or the capsule specifically, but we also need to stretch the surrounding muscles above and below that joint that's involved. The capsule will begin to tighten over and over, and the joint becomes more immobile, which means that the surrounding muscles don't stretch the way they need to. And that lack of mobility creates contractures to the surrounding muscles and restricts your mobility even further. Now you're walking with a limp. Now your foot's turned out to the side. Now you can't bend over. Now you can't squat. Now it's hard to get up from a low chair. Without joint mobilizations first, it's hard to gain your joint mobility. But then we also have to follow it up to stretching the surrounding muscles to give you full mobility. Number 5, we need to improve your joint function overall. So as I mentioned earlier, the joint begins to tighten. We tend to self-limit. The self-limiting creates weaknesses and leads to deconditioning to the overall muscles. To assist in improving our function and decrease our pain overall, we need to remain active. But how do we do this? Strength training. Strength training to specific muscles above and below the joint is the best solution. For example, with knee arthritis, strengthening the leg muscles, particularly on the front of the thigh, so the quadriceps, that's one of the best ways to help improve joint efficiency for knee arthritis. But this is true for other areas. Back arthritis, we have core stabilization exercises. Neck arthritis, we have deep neck flexion exercises. And so on, all the way to the hip or the shoulder. But restoring muscle function is a must to assist in the long-term benefits of arthritis, and it helps reduce your pain and improve your mobility and function overall. Number 6 on the ways to help improve arthritic pain is balance exercises or balance training. And this consists of improving coordination and reaction to certain stimulus overall. The joint prevents full mobility. Therefore, we will have a greater risk for falling. But balance training with eyes open, eyes closed, standing on a foam pad are all ways that we can help improve your balance. And it's essential for long-term function. And number 7 ways that we can help individuals with arthritis. Number 7 is taping. So taping to the knee, taping to the shoulder, taping to the hip with a light stretch tape, such as a rock tape, is an excellent alternative in managing pain. Rock tape that's applied to the skin in a specific pull and a specific pattern will help improve joint function and decrease pain. That application of tape helps change the pain stimulus, but also helps with joint efficiency to the muscles. So taping is another great way that we can help. So there's 7 ways that we can help decrease your arthritic pain so you don't have to just live with it. There's nothing you can do. So adaptive equipment, using a cane up to 45% of your body weight can be reduced. Bracing, joint mobilization, stretching. Specific exercises to strengthen the surrounding muscles, balance exercises, and taping. These are all ways that we can help with arthritis. So overall, don't live with it. Don't just sit there and live with arthritis and think that there's nothing that can be done. You don't always have to go run off and get a total joint replacement, which doesn't always give you the true mobility success and decreased pain that you're looking for. But this is proven effective ways that we can help make an impact in arthritis and your arthritic pain. So all in all, let me round out today. For myself, I truly appreciate you listening overall. I appreciate your comments. Today we went through why we sleep and why it's essential for your health. Gave you great tips on why sleep is important for our health. We just went over why you truly don't have to live with arthritis, that there are ways that we can impact arthritic pain and help with your overall mobility and function in your life. You don't have to miss out on important events in your life or your daily social chores of just visiting friends and family because of arthritis. You don't have to live with it.